Welcome back, everyone. Jay Gallus is my special guest. He's the author of Peace, O Christ. And basically what we have been discussing over the last hour, if you're just tuning in,
I love you.
is that Jesus Christ never existed. One of the questions that I'm sure you get asked all the time, Jay, is tell us a little bit about your book, Peace, O Christ.
It is a real science that you were not taught in church. I wasn't taught in church, and folk will not be taught it in church. And the reason for that is because if you start practicing textual criticism, religion will go out of business.
Josephus. This man hated the Creator, and he was known by all his contemporaries as the son of Satan. Black people, my people, Yah's people, hear me good. I'm here to tell you the foundation of the book that you think is your salvation to go to heaven. Matter of fact, everything that this man taught and everything that we were taught when it was beaten to us on the plantations of slavery was nothing more than lies and deceits. And what makes so killing about it, they were direct opposite lies. In other words, if Yah told you that your greatness and your great living and your wonderful future was on earth, you can rest assured that a hated liar who hate him and you would tell you it's going to be way up in the sky. In other words, he's going to tell you the very opposite.
Hell is not real. Killmonger said, bury me in the oceans where my ancestors jumped from the ships because they knew death was better than bondage. Colonizers made up hell to make slaves fear death. If I can make you fear death and I have the power to kill you, there's nothing you won't do for me. That's the only explanation of how so many generations of our people would even be subject to such cruel conditions. But even on the more logical side, I think we can all agree that we have a physical body and then we have an intangible soul. How can you burn a soul? But let's take it one more step further. If Jesus died for my sins for all time, how can I still go to hell for those sins that he just died for?
Forgiveness. With that, I'm sorry. I mean, at some point in time, I got to stop forgiving you because you keep doing and you take my kindness for weakness. And that's what they've done. They've taken kindness for weakness. They'll just turn the other cheek. They'll just go to church and pray and Lord, everything gonna be okay. Nah, hell no. They go to church too. So what's their God telling them? For me, Skip, is that, okay, we've turned the other cheek. 250 years of slavery, 100 years of apartheid and Jim Crow. We've turned the other cheek. How about you stop slapping me in my damn face? And then I won't have to turn my cheek. Why do I gotta keep turning while you keep punching? Yeah, I'm tired. I mean, my cheeks are bloody, my hair's spinning from turning like I'm watching a tennis match. But we gotta keep turning the other cheek. Turn the other cheek. That's the problem. We've turned it. It's gonna be okay. That he forgive him. You heard what he said. He said he was sorry. And that's us. Black people, Skip, by nature, we're very forgiving. Because we've allowed this to go on for so long, we've very, very forgiving. Forgiveness. With that, I'm sorry. I mean, at some point in time, I got to stop forgiving you because you keep doing and you take my kindness for weakness. And that's what they've done. They've taken kindness for weakness. They'll just turn the other cheek. They'll just go to church and pray and Lord, everything will be okay. Nah, hell no. They go to church too. So what's their God telling them?
Now, what book did they give you when they taught you how to read? Did they not give you that book when they taught you how to read? So that is the white man's book then.
What you just described is how I got this book. That's all you did.
Hold on.
All you described was how I got this book, who gave it to me, and who used it to enslave me. My question
They used this book to enslave me. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said they used that book to enslave me. I'm glad you said that. Right.
The book Peace, O Christ deals primarily with the person who actually was the chief writer and the overall, shall we say, supervisor of the writing of the New Testament text of the Bible. This man was a highly educated, very knowledgeable man who was very well educated in the Greek schools. He was not only a Roman aristocrat, he was also Roman royalty. We have traced him down through the centuries and through the Roman Empire, both finding out exactly who he was because he never actually used his real which was Arius Calpurnius Piso. And instead he used many, many aliases. If anyone is familiar with the writings of Flavius Josephus,
Yes.
considered to be an ancient Jewish historian, then that is the man I am referring to. That is one of the names that he used. One of his pseudonyms was Flavius Josephus. Flavius Josephus himself never existed, but Arius Calpurnius Piso did exist.
Wow.
The basic reason was to invent Jesus was
Ephesians, slaves, obey your masters. It's an edict in the word.
Generations of Baptist historians working inside the seminaries who told it straight. There's really no getting around this. Slavery was the primary reason for
Ephesians, slaves, obey your masters. It's an edict in the word of
cold historical fact.
the Romans decided they would make a new religion, and they came up with the idea of, well, let's take the God that the Judeans worship, and we'll have him have a son, and we'll have him become the new God, which, as you notice in the religion of Christianity or in the New Text, it is supposed to be a passive type religion, turn the other cheek kind
Right.
of thing. So if they would believe in it, then the Romans would be able to control them more easily, and they would be to pacify them so that they would just accept Rome, accept the leadership of the emperor, and it will all be finished. That is one of the reasons. The other reason was to assist all of the other royals involved in the aristocracy of the Roman Empire in helping to maintain slavery. And because the empire fed upon slavery and became rich upon slavery. So they wanted that. That was something they wanted to keep, and they felt if they could get everybody believing in Christianity, they would all be able to be controlled because they would be guaranteed everything that they wanted now and could not have. They would get it after they died. So they had nothing to worry about. Go through slavery, do what you're told, do what your master tells you, and everything will be fine after you die. So that was the reason for Christianity.
Ephesians, slaves, obey your masters. It's an edict in the word.
generations of Baptist historians working inside the seminaries who told it straight. There's really no getting around this. Slavery was the primary reason for
Ephesians, slaves, obey your masters. It's an edict in the word of
cold historical fact.
Arius Calpurnius Piso himself, the lead man, was actually a cousin of Emperor Titus, and he also co-ruled with Titus during Titus's short reign. So he was very much related to those people. Many people think that he was he used the name Flavius Josephus because he did not want anyone to know who he was during history.
So that was his pen name.
That was one of his pen names.
So let me ask you this, sir. Who were the disciples? Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the others. Who were they?
Those disciples were all the actual sons of Arius Calpurnius Piso. And he used them to represent all of the 12 disciples. The disciples also were not actual people. They were fictional characters. They were modeled off of the fictional characters, modeled off of Arius Calpurnius Piso's sons. He had actually 4 sons.
When you say something's disingenuous, in what way am I misrepresenting the Bible?
Well, you're saying that when you speak of slavery, you're talking about
Exodus 21. Oh man!
I know when you're referring to slavery, you're speaking about like the kind of we had 100 years ago in America.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about what's in Exodus. Is it more?
I know what's in Exodus 21.
I bet you don't.
Matt,
I bet you don't, or you wouldn't have called me. You wouldn't have called me disingenuous. Is it morally correct to own another person as property?
No. But
does the Bible allow people to own other people as property?
It does.
Then why? So you've just admitted the Bible advocates for something you view as immoral. How am I being disingenuous?
Because I know the way you're looking at it, and I know the way in context.
I just told you. No.
No.
You don't get to pull some context bullshit. You just agreed with me. The Bible advocates.
Without context.
My point is, I agree with you. Context is critical.
Right.
I'm not wrong on the context. You just agreed with me. The Bible advocates for something immoral.
Right, but I was
right
because I know what you mean by slavery.
No, I'm talking about what the Bible means by slavery. That you shall buy your slaves you shall buy your slaves from the heathen that surround you. That they are your money and your property.
Calm down.
They are your money and your property that you can pass on to your children, and you can beat them as long as they don't die within a couple of days. Where am I?
You could beat them.
He didn't stop that.
Wait, did you say it doesn't say you can beat them?
Oh, you brought this up.
I thought you knew it. I thought you knew Exodus 21.
I know what verse you're talking about, but if you read that verse, it doesn't say you can do that. He's saying if this happens, this is what needs to be done.
Are you an idiot?
Say you can do.
Are you an idiot?
No.
I know you're not. I know you're not. This is what's so terribly embarrassing. This is what is absolutely frustrating to me. It's the reason why I bring up this all the time. Okay?
Right.
It says specifically, if someone beats his male or female servant and they die, that person is to be punished. But if they survive for a couple of days, that person is not to be punished. Is it moral to beat another human being as long as they don't die within a couple of days?
Okay, I would say no. But
okay,
that's good.
You just read. Does it say if this happens, this is what needs to be done?
Okay, so let me see if I can frame this a little differently. If we don't have a law, hang on. If we don't make a law, okay, that prohibits police brutality, but instead we say if a policeman beats a black man and he doesn't die within a couple days, he gets off. Is that moral?
That scripture also doesn't say that the person just gets off like that.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Oh my God!
Matt's looking this up while you talk. In the meantime, I got to ask you, man, how hard would it have been to have just prohibited it? To say thou shalt not own other people as property. How about other immoral things? What about spousal rape?
Here we go.
Why didn't God
An
care about
owner
that?
who hits his male or female slave in the eye and destroys it must let the slave go free and compensate for the eye. An owner who knocks out a tooth of a male or female slave must let the slave go free. It's not an eye for an eye when it comes to slaves. It's you must let them go free. It's a completely different set of justice. If a man beats his slave and he doesn't die, he is not to be punished because the slave is his property. Exodus 21, 20. Not to be punished because he's his property.
Right, so what I'm saying is that it doesn't imply that nothing exactly is going to happen to him because of that. It just says he's just not going to be responsible for the death of that person.
No, that's not what it says.
Individual can still.
That's not what it says.
It says. Right, he would not be punished for the death of that servant.
That's not what it says. It says he will be punished for the death of the servant. You can't even stay on what it actually says. If a man beats his slave and he dies, that man is to be punished. If the slave does not die within a day or two, that man is not to be punished because the slave is his property, his money. That's what it says. But it breaks my heart in a serious way for people, anybody, to make excuses for something that they acknowledge plainly is grossly immoral, that has led to the subjugation of people for ages. And I don't have to do shit. You want me to hang up? Well, I'm sitting here talking about... You're on hold. I'm sitting here explaining how I wake up every day in a world where the majority of people believe in batshit crazy stuff that is also evil and contributes to the destruction of society. And when I talk to people who believe this, who want to talk about, oh, you're getting it out of context, bullshit. I read you the verses. When we're not looking at the verses, you don't necessarily get them right. But you agree that this is immoral, that people aren't property, that you shouldn't be allowed to beat them as long as they don't die, that you shouldn't be buying them from the people around you. And yet you are sitting here bending over backwards and accusing me of being disingenuous and taking it out of context in order to make excuses. Why not just acknowledge that book is grossly immoral and you and I are both better than that book?
Just really quick, do you recognize that you're trying to justify slavery? Like, is that something that you recognize right now? And you do realize you're justifying slavery right now.
I mean, you guys keep saying
this was a quick question because you're talking about. I just wanted to ask, do you even recognize it?
Why is that so hard? Those verses are immoral. I don't think those verses even necessarily came from a God. The God I believe in would not do that. The Bible is not de facto perfect. It is the result of men. Why not do that? And then you don't have to embarrass yourself